Now, I'm a sucker for a good old-fashioned monster movie, and this is a wonderful teaser for Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. The monster is given life in November, so there is a wait, but one that undoubtedly appears worth it. A large part of me wishes that it wasn't a Netflix production, however, and had instead received a theatrical release only. It just looks like it was made for the big screen, wouldn't you agree? I watch a lot of Netflix, but when it comes to their big films, there is some inherent quality cap that always manages to hinder a movie from becoming great. I don't know what it is, but the question remains, will it affect the much anticipated subsequent adaptation of Mary Shelley's classic tale of Victor Frankenstein? We are told that Del Toro's new version is not in essence a traditional horror story, but rather a deeply emotional exploration of themes such as fatherhood and identity. Therefore, unlike previous adaptations, there will be less emphasis on horror and more on the emotional and psychological aspects of the story. In particular, he aims to humanise the monster, exploring the complex relationships between creator and creation. Well, if you're not a fan of this direction and we're expecting only jump scares and gore, then why don't we meet in the middle and call it an existential horror film? As don't worry, I'm sure there will be some of Del Toro's signature creepiness as well. Personally, I applaud new directions, especially if the alternative is just another rehash. Everything we see in this trailer looks quite exceptional, I must say. Del Toro has long mastered his style of Gothic romanticism and fairy tale surrealism, but I've always thought he uniquely manages to portray a sense of real-world grittiness and seamlessly merge the two together, regardless of the subgenre. It's a fusion often mistaken for steampunk for some reason. Perhaps because he enjoys the exploration of biomechanical alchemy so much, and maybe people focus more on the brass gears, tubing and goggles. I suppose you could argue that being set in 19th century Eastern Europe, there is a slight aesthetic of Victorian machinery run by steam. However, what we see here embraces more of the proto-scientific apparatus, such as alchemical devices and Tesla coils and so forth, which works well with Del Toro's style and the theme of animating a human body back to life. I'm also loving the allegory of how electricity is the blood that powers this creature, represented by the red power cells. Or what about the pattern etched into the wood that symbolises a nervous system? It's all in the details with this director. There are recognisable tropes in the teaser, sure, and a lot of imagery that reminds me of other films and even games. However, that doesn't bother me in the slightest, because just from the teaser I can see that the world building and even what is at stake in terms of Victor's ambitions, his great evil as he puts it, are rich in detail and steeped in emotional weight. Yeah, I'm excited about this Netflix movie. I'm sorry for not showing the trailer, but Netflix don't like free promotion for their content, so it's just stills for now. The choice of filming locations is a real boon to the Gothic requirement of the film. Everything was filmed in Scotland, I believe, locations including Edinburgh's Royal Mile, the Glasgow Cathedral and Dunwick House in Aberdeenshire, have all been beautifully transformed to reflect this period setting. These iconic locations have all we need: massive stone facades, pointed arches and stained glass. This is high Gothic, ladies and gentlemen, not the industrial grime of steampunk London, but a world of ruins, cathedrals and aristocratic decay. Oh, and if you hadn't realised already, the cast is also pretty phenomenal. Oscar Isaac as Victor Frankenstein. Sure, he's from Guatemala, but this is fantasy horror, so is regional ethnicity that important over potentially a good movie? He's an outstanding actor and fairly unrecognisable in this. I can almost see him as the character he played in Ex Machina, but, with a conscience and haunted by his moral choices. Jacob Elordi plays the monster, and Mia Goth, a rising star in the horror genre, is Elizabeth. There are actually a few notable names in this, including Charles Dance, Christopher Waltz, David Bradley, Ralph Ineson, hell yes, and Lars Mikkelsen, who is the brother of Mads Mikkelsen if you didn't know. I hope we get a genuine emotional payoff from what Victor achieves, his trials and tribulations while trying to play God, and a creepy insight into the disturbing biological nature of his meddling. Much of this will undoubtedly be pseudoscience, but I think the real horror will stem from the results of actions taken in the pursuit of knowledge and progress, as well as the traumatic fallout from the dire consequences that follow, rather than your typical scares. I speak of the plight that the monster must endure, his creation and then abandonment, his yearning for belonging when all he has is isolation and rejection. and then his demand for a mate and inevitably his descent into vengeance, leaving only sorrow. This is the monster we are familiar with, and I thought they did him justice in the Penny Dreadful series quite well. The cinematography is spot on and pairs very well with the locations and set designs. It all feels both tangible and otherworldly at the same time, almost as if there is an ethereal quality to everything that can be seen here. I know I'm gushing over something I haven't watched yet, but I just don't see any issues with this teaser that suggest in the slightest that this isn't the film for me. I'm guessing these frozen soldiers are the casualties of the Napoleonic Wars, if Frankenstein still takes place at the beginning of the 19th century, that is. And waste not, want not, as clearly this battlefield serves as a grim repository for the body parts he requires to construct his creature. This is actually a nice explanation as to how he can acquire so many cadavers for experimentation without becoming suspicious. One of the most striking visual shots in the teaser is this red statue surrounded by flames. I'm not exactly sure who it is or what it represents, but I know there is always a lot of symbolism in his films. Does it represent a guardian or fallen angel, reflecting the monster's tragic existence and quest for identity, or something else? It looks a lot like the statues that exist of Archangel Michael, who is said to have defeated Satan, unless I'm mistaken. Either way, fantastic imagery and a lot of food for thought. And boy, does this shot harken back to the modern classics. And what is a Frankenstein movie without humans being tossed around with a display of superhuman strength? It gleefully reminds me of the 1994 adaptation starring Robert De Niro as the monster and Kenneth Branagh as Victor. My god, I love that version so much. Still, as the classic tale goes, it all concludes in the Arctic, where Victor seeks to destroy his creation but is in a near state of death himself. Yet when they find him, he is met only with a creature that expresses both sorrow and rage over his existence. As they confront one another, instead of reconciliation, there is only bitterness and resignation. I have a feeling this one will be more of a cautionary and sorrowful tale, more so than any that have come before, affecting the psyche more than a straight-up horror that pulls out all the bells and whistles, and amen to that. Nosferatu is perhaps cut from the same cloth, the same breed of film. Therefore, I expect a sort of spiritual sibling in this, one that is a psychological, atmospheric and symbolic horror picture. A film that will hopefully place Guillermo del Toro back on the pedestal once more, and maybe, just maybe, we might just get ourselves a Mountains of Madness film, because we all know that is what he really wants to do. If you're unfamiliar with Mountains of Madness, I'll include a suitable link in the description that provides an overview, and trust me, it's a film that deserves to be made. All of you take care and let me know your thoughts and feelings in the comments below. All the best.